So as long as there's been beheadings, there's been the question of whether or not you actually remain conscious after that happens, something called lucid decapitation. Participants in the crowds during the French Revolution reported seeing the heads blinking and making expressions, and physicians at the time were beginning to get a better idea of the physiology of the body and the circulatory system, and they began to understand that consciousness would not just go away immediately. It would take a little bit of time for the blood to drain out of the brain. The question is, how long? There were stories of prisoners being asked to blink for as long as possible after the decapitation just to see how long that would last. And there were reports of that going on for up to 30 seconds, but they also didn't know for sure if that was a conscious thing that the person was doing or just some kind of death spasm. One of the most well-documented cases was from a doctor named Dr. Bureau, who experimented with a condemned man named Henri Languille on his execution. This was on June 28th of 1905, and the doctor recorded what happened in his journal. I'm just going to read this for you. Here then is what I was able to note immediately after the decapitation. The eyelids and lips of the guillotined man worked in irregularly rhythmic contractions for about 5 or 6 seconds. This phenomenon has been remarked by all those finding themselves in the same conditions as myself for observing what happens after the severing of the neck. I waited for several seconds. The spasmodic movement ceased. It was then that I called in a strong, sharp voice, "Languille!" I saw the eyelids slowly lift up without any spasmodic contractions. I insist advisedly on this peculiarity, but with an even movement, quite distinct and normal, such as happens in everyday life, with people awakened or torn from their thoughts. Next, Languille's eyes very definitely fixed themselves on mine, and the pupils focused themselves. I was not then dealing with the sort of vague, dull look without any expression that can be observed any day in dying people to whom one speaks. I was dealing with an undeniably living eyes which were looking at me. After several seconds, the eyelids closed again. It was at that point that I called out again, and once more, without any spasm, slowly the eyelids lifted, and undeniably living eyes fixed themselves on mine with perhaps even more penetration than the first time. Then there was further closing of the eyelids, but now less complete. I attempted the effect of a third call. There was no further movement, and the eyes took on the glazed look which they have in the dead. Yeah! So it looks like, by all accounts, you remain conscious for about 30 seconds.